Hey girl, hey.
Hey, how's it going, dude?
I'm just living my best life.
You know, you like my really sexy headset?
I love your headset so much.
Thank you, Austin Butner. Hey,
Um,
Rich.
Nicole says, hey. Did Danny tell you that we went on a walk together?
No.
We did.
How was that?
It
Was
was so
was he
great.
was he good company?
He was such good company with Bree Girl. And it was just amazing.
I'm so glad.
We had a good time.
I took a mental health day from school today.
You did. I'm so happy for you.
It was delightful.
And you just chilled?
Well, I got to like drop off the kids at school, which I haven't done this year, which was exciting.
Okay. Yeah.
And I talked to a friend for a few minutes and then we went hiking.
I'm
And
so happy for you.
it was so magical. But then Sunny rolled in shit.
That's disgusting.
She does this on this hike. Oh, there we go. Anyway, so we had a very dirty dog.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it was
It
not
makes
cool.
me no. Hi, Loraine.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Just living
All
our
right,
best life.
thank you.
I was just talking about how one of my dogs, we went on a hike today, and one of my dogs found some really stinky stuff to roll in. So,
Oh no. Oh no.
and she loved it. She loved every minute of it,
Oh,
Every second.
of course.
Living her best life.
living her best life.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I have wine.
Okay, that's good.
Just so everyone knows. Oh, Rachel's texting us. Our school can't find teachers or subs. So TKK second. I don't know what's happening. So Loraine, you're good. Oh, that's what I need to do is make you a co-host.
Because you have all the maps for us, right?
I do.
See,
Great.
this is the frickin' problem. It's only letting me make you the host.
Oh.
Loraine, you're in charge now.
Okay.
But can we do that and stream to Facebook?
Wait, no. Loraine, you have to make me the host again.
Okay.
This is exactly what I was worried about. Remember when I was like, I don't know if I would need it. Okay, so I'm back to being the host because I have to share. Why can't I make you a co-host?
It's been doing this.
Mhm.
No, but actually, it looks like I can share my screen anyway without being this co-host.
Oh my gosh, it's the best news ever.
That's because you have the right settings on your hosting duties, Jenna.
I'm so good. I'm so good at Zoom.
Because you're generous.
I'm just generous. I'm
Yeah.
the general.
Yeah,
And I'm so
you're the
good at
general.
Zoom. Okay. All right. Well, this is very exciting. Loraine, do you need anything before we get started?
we just adopted these draft maps yesterday, right? So I'm like trying to get, and they just don't look good on the website. So I'm trying to get them to like be more visible, but
Somehow the district maps are always ugly.
Terrible.
And like I'm sort of a map nerd, and it's always very disappointing to me.
About you.
I'm such a map nerd.
Great.
And it's always like, what? Why?
I'm going live.
Okay, cool.
So if you wanna unshare.
Yes, thank you. That's helpful. Great.
Although why live on Facebook? Are we live?
Let's check.
Oh, here we go. Okay, we're good. Hang on, I have to do the share to your group and go live. And then I have to turn the volume down. I now actually know what to do, which is just so helpful.
It is.
Got it. It's taken me maybe 25 Zooms to figure out how to do that. Okay, we're redirecting.
It says we're streaming live now, Jenna, on my screen.
Well, that is fascinating because on my screen we're not. But it's okay. It's gonna be great. It's always great. Oh, here we go. Yep, volume down.
We good.
Hi, people.
Hello, PST.
Okay. This is very exciting.
My 4-year-old just opened the door, so I'm gonna go close it. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Sounds good. No worries.
Oliver, can you get the dogs quiet, please? Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is super exciting. 2 lives in 1 week. I feel like a celebrity. Living
You are a celebrity, Jen.
Hey, fans.
Well, both of you.
I just feel tired, actually.
I feel tired too. I'm just,
that's cool.
As I said, I'm like, bottoms up.
Oh yeah, you've got the libations. I love it.
Or
water. Yes.
Both good options. I support you. All right. Has anyone told us they can hear us yet? Because that's always, Nicole and I like to wait until somebody acknowledges we exist just to make sure.
Let me double check.
Oh, okay. Rachel says we're live.
We're good.
Tracy says we're okay. Go.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hello, welcome everybody. My name is Jenna. Just kidding. But for real, I'm Jenna. We have Nicole, and we are super excited because we are here with Loraine Lundquist, who is from the LAUSD Redistricting Commission. I want to take a quick second before we actually get started to just acknowledge that today is Orange Shirt Day, which is the National Day of Remembrance for U.S. Indian boarding schools. And this is actually something that here in the U.S., many of us are just recently being made aware of the history of U.S. Indian boarding schools. However, for the Native American members of our community, they've been living with this grief and experience and intergenerational trauma for their entire lives. And the impacts from these boarding schools include loss of language, culture, religion, separation of children from their families. And if you want more information, you can go to boardingschoolhealing.org and read more about it. So Nicole and I are oranging it up today in honor of Orange Shirt Day. So with that, I would like to introduce Loraine Lundquist, and she can explain a little bit about the LAUSD Redistricting Commission, what it is, and why you care.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I love parents supporting teachers. I love the work that you're doing. You all are amazing. Thank you for everything. So redistricting, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know what redistricting is drawing the lines for every district in which that we elected leaders of all different kinds, right? This is happening right now at all different levels. It's happening for Congress. It's happening for our state assembly and our state senate. It's happening for our LA City Council. And what we're talking about here today is redistricting for the Los Angeles Unified School District school board members, of which there are 7 school board members. And so I'm on this commission that is charged with redrawing these lines. And actually, we don't have the final say. We just make a recommendation to LA City Council. And then believe it or not, LA City Council gets to make the final decision, even though there are parts of LAUSD that are not in LA City. There are plenty of cities that are in LAUSD that are not controlled by LA City Council, but LA City Council gets to make the final decision about where these lines will be drawn. And so these are the lines that—
Note to self.
Yes.
Go on.
Great. And so we're not talking about the local districts, by the way. We're talking about the school board members. So I'm in Board District 3, and I was appointed by school board member Scott Schmerlson, who is my, pumping fist for school board member Scott Schmerlson. Let's hear it. And so I was appointed by him, and every school board member gets to appoint 1 commissioner. So that's 7 of the commissioners, but we're a commission of 15. So the other 8 are appointed, 4 of them by the mayor, Eric Garcetti, and 4 of them by the city council president, Nuri Martinez. So that's the makeup of the commission. And I'm actually gonna share my screen just real quick so you can look at the people who are on the commission if you are interested. So let's see how that goes. Am I sharing my screen?
I mean, I like this. It's like find a friend. Okay, I'm gonna look and see who we know. This is fun, Nicole. Do we know anyone else? You're welcome.
Oh yeah, just a little bit about me. So, by the way, I am not paid for this job. I am not an expert at all in redistricting. I'm actually a physicist by training. I teach at CSUN, but I was appointed. You know, we're all just volunteers, ordinary citizens on this commission. But I am a parent in LAUSD. Those are my kids there. And I have one, my son goes to Holmes Middle School, my daughter goes to Balboa, and my youngest is too young for LAUSD so far. She's 4. And just really quick, everything I'm just gonna say here these are my own views. I'm not trying to, speak for the commission. And also, I'm not really supposed to take comments about how you want the map to look. The best place to express those is before all the commissioners in one of our public hearings, and I'm going to give you the schedule for that. So this is our commission. These are the folks that are on it. There are actually 2 vacancies, people who had to step away, and there have been no reappointments, and I don't expect that there will be reappointments. So right now it's 13 of us. I'll leave that up there for a second. And then you probably really want to know the schedule, like what's coming up? When can I talk about this? When can I give my input? And the answer is next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, we're having public input hearings on these draft maps that we just adopted yesterday on September 29th. So October 4th, 6th, and 9th are the most important days that I would recommend and ask, in fact, that all of you come out and give public comment on these maps and let us know what you think. This Saturday, we're going to have a mapping workshop because we have an online mapping tool where you can actually draw your own maps and make your own suggestions. And you can see like what would the population of the district be if it looked like this, and you can draw it yourself and see, what would the demographics of the district look like. So we're going to have a workshop to teach you how to use that tool that's on our website this coming Saturday at 11 a.m. And then
Loraine,
yeah.
Can I just really quickly interrupt? So just because I think that's really, really cool, like in and of itself. So on Saturday at 11 a.m., you guys are holding a workshop where people can go in and sort of like take chunks of the district and see what the demographics look like.
That's right.
And what it would look like if that was its own board district.
That's right.
But there's a million different rules that come into play, right? You can't just be like, you get a board district and you get a board district. It's
there's not all that many rules. I mean, I can go into what the rules are if you're interested in the details, but the basic rule is that we have to keep the same number of districts. We don't get to change the number. There's 7. Okay. So, and then you have to have equal population in all the districts. Those are the basic rules. So you get to divide up the district however you want to. I mean, there are rules about things like cracking and packing. So you're not allowed to like try to pack all of like one certain kind of voter into one district, and or like divide up. Like if let's say it was Republicans versus Democrats, which it mostly isn't in the school board, but you wouldn't be, you couldn't like stuff all the Republicans into one district or like split them up, so that they're all diluted and into different districts. So there are some rules like that. But for the most part, it's really, those are things that only happen like if you're trying to do that for the most part, right? So I would say, go online, try out our mapping tool, come to the workshop this Saturday, learn how to use it and give it a go. And, say, how would you divide up LAUSD into 7 equal districts? And then
it's interesting.
Can I ask a quick question just to go back to the list of folks who were on this, the volunteers who are serving on this commission?
Yeah.
And it's a question I've heard actually from a couple people already, and Ingrid is in the chat asking. So the folks who have been appointed to be a part of this commission, do they have to recuse themselves if there is a conflict of interest, or are there rules about sort of, folks who have been on the commission, right? Can they run for school board after they're done being a volunteer? Is there sort of any rules governing that stuff? Do you know?
There aren't rules governing that. We do have to submit what they call the Form 700, which, indicates who we're working for, who we're being paid for and getting money from. And we're not supposed to be on the commission if we're, being paid by people who have a vested interest in this. As far as that, running for office, there aren't any rules about that to my knowledge. And we do have a number, as you probably know, a number of people who have run for school board in the past. I think we have at least three former candidates that I know of.
Yeah, I saw Heather on there for sure. Okay.
There's some interesting.
In full disclosure, I should say I ran for office myself, not for school board, but I ran for LA City Council.
Right. I mostly care about somebody who's like, here's how I want to make the map. And now I want to run for that map, right? Like now I want to be the person elected by the map I just drew.
It's interesting. I think whereas I think that's plausible, to me, it's where my sort of concern lies more is the fact that the board members each appoint, like Loraine said, Scott appointed her. Every board member appoints a person. And for many of these board members, they still have many years left on their terms. To me, that seems like a weird conflict of interest. So I don't know. To me, it seems like an independent commission would maybe make a little bit more sense.
So I was going to talk about this at the end, but I'm happy to talk about it now.
We can push.
I think that all redistricting should be completely independent. And after this process is over, I would like to advocate that the LA City redistricting processes, both the LA City Council and the LAUSD, should be independent commissions. That's something we've adopted in the state of California. So the people drawing the congressional districts and the state assembly districts, they're not appointed by the elected leaders. So you don't have any of this concern of like elected leaders, influencing the decision or choosing their own voters, right? And that's true at the county level. LA County has an independent redistricting commission, but in LA City, we don't have any independent redistricting commissions at all. The members are appointed by elected leaders. Now there are some things that we have put into place since the last redistricting process that make it more independent. And the biggest thing is a new law that they put on the books just before this redistricting process, talking about what they call ex parte communications. So the new rule is that if any of the commission members speak to an elected leader or their staff, they have to disclose that they spoke to them, and they have to summarize the content of the conversation. Okay, so I think that does limit a lot of what we saw in the last redistricting process 10 years ago, of where basically, there might be appointed members, but it's basically the appointed people are just doing the bidding of the person that appointed them. Now that is, I think most of us are trying to avoid ex parte communications. We're trying to, I'm trying to avoid speaking to school board members or their staff about redistricting at all. I think that does make it a lot more independent.
So Loraine, can we look at the, look at like the current board? I think for me, the biggest thing that's hard to see on the maps are where they differ, right? Yes. Like, I guess there's like a small black line, but it's super hard to find. even
Yes.
with like a magnifying glass.
Okay.
So
And while
and
we're pulling that up, just to remind everybody who's watching, right, the school board members, so these districts that we're recreating, right now through Lorraine's work and the work of these other volunteers, you know, they are building these local districts so that we can have these communities that are going to be electing these representatives to the school board. And what do the school board members do? So just as Loraine is digging this stuff up, they deal with funding. So like our fight around SCF that we were engaged in a couple of weeks ago, right? How are we going to fund our schools? How are we going to spend that money? Who are we going to hire as superintendent, right? These are the folks who have the final say. So redrawing these boundaries means that we are going to be, you know, picking people to represent us to do all of these things, the budgeting, the funding, the hiring, supporting schools on the ground every day, advocating for our communities. So, you know, this is all sort of, like I was jokingly said, like on, you know, Facebook earlier, this is actually, it might not sound so sexy, but it's actually really, really critical.
yes,
Really, really critical to the work we're doing as a PST community.
I'm obsessed
right?
with what's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And, you know,
I
just so everybody
mean-
knows, we have 3 seats that are up for re-election in 2022, right? So the work that we're doing now is going to influence what those board races look like. Thank you. That was my PSA.
What issues do you notice in this current map, people? Hit us up in the comments. What issues do you notice?
I know it's hard to see, and it's very hard to look at the whole map all at once. This is the current map, not the draft maps.
Right.
So
but I like this. Like, what issue? I mean, to me, like the biggest thing I noticed is that District 5 is in half.
Yeah. So this pink thing over here, right? There's this big chunk in the south and a big chunk in the north, and it's held together by this tiny little sliver.
Because they have to be connected, right? That's one of the
They
reasons.
do legally have to be connected. Yeah.
But that's like a loophole when there's like a tiny like freeway that goes up the side
Yeah, there's a tiny
or whatever that is.
sliver.
Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at board district 6 here at the top, like this faucet that's like coming off of into the center of the map, like what the hell is that? Like that is, it literally looks like my kitchen sink, and I don't understand why it's there on this map.
Yes. Yes. And I
mean,
wish.
I think
Yes.
the Reseda cluster does not belong in BD6, is what someone's saying. BD6 is gerrymandered, BD5 is crazy. The gerrymandered cutout of BD3.
Yeah, so that faucet that you're talking about, that is the Reseda cluster. So it comes over and grabs Reseda High School there.
Fascinating. And we don't know why any of this happened 10 years ago.
I've been learning a little bit about it as I talk to people and find out, but I don't know a huge amount of what. I will say that this map that we ended up with is not the map that the commission recommended. LA City Council, took the map that the commission recommended and, drew a new one, sort of threw it out the window and drew something new. And I know that the mayor at that time, not our current mayor, the mayor at that time was very engaged in school board issues and was very engaged in the redrawing of the map.
Was that
Villaraigosa?
Did his name rhyme with
The mentiroso?
Villaraigosa?
Oh my God.
So, I know that
Garcetti
some
goes
of
to
these
private
things.
school. He doesn't care. Garcetti's living his best life in private school. So it's, he's like, you do what you do. Hopefully he won't mess with it. But the good news is 10 years ago, people maybe weren't as loud as they are now. But that's some BS.
I just want to also say that, like, knowing the valley the way I know the valley, and actually the southern part of the map too, like this is sort of a racist map, you all. Like this, yeah,
it's a little bit racist.
When I look at sort of BD6, BD3, and I think about how those are cut, it just looks like you know, like I grew up in Woodland Hills. I went to Lockhurst Elementary, Hale Middle School, El Camino Real High School. Like BD3 is
Before
white.
it was an independent charter.
Right, before it was an independent charter. BD3 is white, white, white. And then they were like, oh, look, here are some
Chose
brown
BD4.
people who live here.
Get out.
Let's push
Get
you all
out.
to BD6. And that's sort of how I feel too about like the BD5, because I taught at Jefferson High School in South LA, which used to be Vladovic and is now, anyway, it just feels like I look at this map
Aggressive.
and I just, you know, this is a racist map.
I think also
Go
really
ahead.
fast, like something that I just want to point out, which I think is very interesting is, so I know, Loraine, you had said that these districts have to have similar populations. There's like a 10% variation, right?
They
That's
have to
allowed?
have, yeah, we're required to have them be equal population, but we're allowed some wiggle room, which is as much as 10% difference between any two districts. So, you know, like one can be plus 3% and one can be minus 6%. And as long as that the difference between any two is not more than 10.
So if you want to talk about like saturation, right? Look at District 1, which is purple. Look at the size of District 1. The fact that District 1 has the same population as 4 or 6 or 3, it's I don't know.
Yeah, I mean there are certain parts of the area that are much more densely populated for sure, and so that's going to make some districts a lot more geographically small. And you know, it really does affect, you know, sometimes you think, oh, I can just take out this part of this district, and but you know, sometimes if it's a really dense area, moving a line by just a really small amount can actually change the population by quite a bit. So that makes this process tricky.
Loraine, I don't know that you have the answer to this question, but I still want to say it out loud because someone is asking it, and it's something I'm sure we've all been thinking, is asking for a friend. Why does the city council make this decision, and why can they change it? Like how, because like you said, in the last case, they just did what they wanted, which to me is a little bit of bullshit. So
yeah,
why?
So again, this is goes back a little bit to what I was talking about, that I think it should be a completely independent process. So you know, I would like to advocate in the future that it be an independent redistricting commission and that the commission has the final say. But it would require a change in the city charter to do that. So this is all laid out in the city charter, and all of this redistricting process is laid out in the city charter. And in order to change the city charter, you need a ballot measure, right? So you need a lot of signatures to get that on the ballot. It would probably take, I don't know, $1 million or so to get it on the ballot, right? To get enough signatures.
How many signatures do you need?
Jenna. Jenna's like, I'm gonna start today.
I think it's like 300,000. It's a lot.
But the other thing too is like, I do feel that this election cycle / sort of like these conversations are happening in a very different sort of political context than 10 years ago, right? Like if members of PST are like, back off, we like this map, whatever map that the commission settles on, like we will go, we will fuck you up. We will fuck you up, city council and Mayor Garcetti. Like,
you heard it here first.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I know that it's legally the state has a law that says that the largest city can oversee the redistricting process, the largest city in a school district. So LA is the largest city in LAUSD school district, but you know, I don't think most of the people that I have talked to do not think it should be this way. It's just hard to change it.
Show us the maps. Show us the maps. I want to see the maps.
I want to see the maps, and while you're pulling up the maps, just the last thing I want to say is, in this world that we now live in, where people are starting to talk about equity versus equality, right? Like
Yeah.
This idea that all the populations need to be the same is stoops. That's equality, right? That's not equity. So if we look at, we obviously know that some of these districts are much lower income, right? They're in much more need. So why on earth would they need to have the same population? Why wouldn't we create a situation where we could have a smaller population in a district with higher need so that they had greater access to services?
Yeah, that, I think that would even be it's even harder change.
I mean, we're already doing the ballot change. We're just gonna add that in.
Okay.
That's fine. It's not a big deal. It's gonna be fine.
Jenna's putting it on the list. It
It's
will
gonna
get
be on
done.
the list. It's gonna be good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, show us the maps.
Okay, maps. So
Loraine, don't be offended, but I hate these maps. Not that I hate
I'm
them,
not
but,
offended.
like,
I'm not
they're
offended at all. And
impossible.
I want to hear it, and I want you to come and tell the commission, because, you know, I am a person of one. And I think there's a lot of desire to, you know, keep a lot of things the same. So I'm going to show you close-ups of these maps, because the first thing I want to tell you is, even though the commission has put 3 maps online as though there are only 3 options, first of all, we don't have to pick one of these options, right? We are accepting public comment. We are accepting draft maps from the public. We could pick something completely different from any of these options. But even these 3 things are really, there are 2 options up in the north with board district 3, 4, and 6 that we've talked about. There are 3 options that we've talked about with districts 2 and 5 over in the east. And then there's 2 options we've talked about with 1 and 7 down in the south. And each of those options can be connected with any of the other options, right? So 2 in the north, 3 in the east, and 2 in the south is really 12 total combinations. So even though there's
they're like puzzle pieces.
They're like puzzle pieces that are completely interchangeable and modular, that can be connected with each other. So I'm going to show you the different regions with a more close up. And I can also, you know, pull up the maps themselves and try to zoom in on any.
They're like looking at my nose as I'm.
I know. So if there are sections you want to zoom in on, I'll pull up like a different document where you can try it, where you can zoom in. But basically, if you look back at the original, I won't pull it back up, but if you look out,
Lorraine, just so you know, in the Facebook Live, it's a much better view than it is in our Zoom.
Okay.
Because in the Facebook Live, whatever, just so you know, it is. It's great. So
you
do me, girl.
I'm glad
it's a much bigger view. So I'm going to look at that. So
glad to hear that, because I know it's really hard to look at. So board district 4, which is in yellow in these maps, in the existing map today, which is neither of these that's on the screen, board district 4 comes in, actually it's in the gray here. It comes up into Woodland Hills and it grabs Taft High School. It comes up over the hill. And then it also comes into the valley over on the east side here. So it stretches, board district 4 stretches into the valley in the west, and it also stretches into the valley on the east.
Do we have the drawing thing on? I don't know how to work Zoom. Isn't there like a thing where you can like draw? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
You can draw on the screen.
Dude, I don't know, man. I spent a lot of time looking at maps on on stuff like redlining, and like all I'm seeing right now is like the same forces at work here in maps 1A and 1B. I much prefer map 2. Okay. That is my opinion.
Okay.
You do?
So yes. Just hang on just a sec. Okay, so you know, it would be nice to have you know, board districts completely contained in the valley, as somebody who lives in the valley, right? But if you look at the population, the valley is basically 2.25 districts worth of people. So that means you have to have one district that like comes into the valley from over the hill, right? You can't have 2 districts that are just in the valley, and you can't have 3 districts that are just in the valley. You have to have 2 plus part of one district.
Somebody gets screwed in the valley because they
So
basically
somebody
have a
in the
west
valley
side
will, somebody in the valley will have a board member.
Yes.
Dude, it'll be the West Side Liberals against the Valley Liberals. It will be crazy. What would that be? That would be BD4, right, Jenna?
Ooh, Nick's not gonna like that.
Nick is not gonna like that.
So Board District 4 is the one that stretches into the valley, and like I said, right now it creeps up into the valley in the west and in the east. So at the very least, we wanted to like stop that and make it only come up in the west or only come up in the east. So that's basically what these two options are. Maps 1A and 1B are where Board District 4 comes up into the west, and map 2 is where Board District 4 comes up into the east. And so I think, Jenna, you live in Belleville.
Apparently Nicole would like to date Nick. I don't know what's happening. She's very excited over here. Scott, are you watching this?
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for that part of the valley to be pulled out. Like when I look at that, it's like the white people are being drawn out of the bottom part of that map on the left-hand side. That's what that looks like to me.
Massive diversity in Sherman Oaks and Valley Village.
I'm not all I'm saying.
It's like white people versus white people.
It would be white people versus white people.
So believe it or not, just because of what happens with Board District 4 in the east, and also Reseda, I think, actually, this Board District 4 is slightly more diverse, I believe, in 1A and 1B than it is in map 2. So while yes, most, like in the hills in here and Encino and Woodland Hills is mostly white people, there are, like, it's stretching far enough into the north that
that's what my mom used to call when I was growing up. Oh, those are the folks who live south of the boulevard. Like they were like the special people in the valley.
So Nicole, Rachel's saying that BD4 is actually more diverse in 1A, 1B.
Right. So I hear that. I just feel like looking at this map.
Oh, Brent disagrees. Go.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Can we actually look at the big map again?
Yes.
Loraine?
The existing one or the drafts?
The drafts.
The draft.
Oy, this is just not pleasant to look at. Maybe I need to pull this up on my.
I know. Do you want me to?
Nicole, look at it on Facebook.
I'm going to look at it on Facebook.
Okay, so here you see Board District 4 is, coming over into the East Valley, and on 1A and 1B, Board District 4 is instead coming over the hill into the valley in the west. And then the dark lines are the existing, the way it is right now. And I should also say that Board District 3 has grown the most in population, like Warner Center, Woodland Hills, and Porter Ranch. Have grown in population more than any other parts of the city. And so Board District 3 has to shrink in total because, it got more people. So in order to be equal with the other ones, it has to get smaller.
I know, I'm trying, Mama.
So, and I would say, some communities end up getting split. We're trying to keep communities together as much as possible. And by the way, we're trying to use our basic building blocks be high school attendance zones. And so those are kind of funny shaped. And so that is why you see, at least over here, this down here is Mulholland Drive. So the bottom boundary in map 2 is Mulholland Drive, but in maps 1A and 1B, the things look funny shapes. Mm-hmm. The funny shapes here are following the high school attendance zones.
That answers your question about, Jenna, about the feeder school issue.
Wait, sorry, I was looking at the chat. So meaning that, because this is my whole thing. Like, I feel like if we, as we are trying to do, which is to get people to stay in their neighborhoods and go to their neighborhood schools as much as possible, right? Build up these neighborhood schools. But it's confusing when you have a elementary school and a middle school that's in BD3 and then your high school's in BD6 but you live in BD whatever,
I would love to keep all the feeder schools together. But the problem is it's not really possible. I'm gonna pull
Where's
up a
Manny?
different. I'm gonna pull
Manny
up a
has a
different.
map.
So this map, this is like, oh gosh, sorry. This is zoom in. I'm sorry, my screen's really ugly, and this is of course really ugly, but the whole point of this picture that I'm trying to show is like how ugly it is. So red are high school attendance zones, green is middle school attendance zones, and yellow is elementary attendance zones. So this just happens to be where I live. My son goes to Holmes Middle School right here. So like for Holmes Middle School is the green, it's in green is the attendance area for Holmes Middle School. I mean, if you look at this, like half of the people who go to Holmes Middle School will go to one high school, and half of that, actually it's split up into thirds. Some of them go to one high school, some go to another high school, some go to another high school. So even in one school, you don't have, it might be called a feeder school for something, but actually there's plenty of people that live, my son goes to our local middle school, but our local high school is going to be different from some of the other people who live in the Holmes Middle School area, right? Their local high school will be different.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just the
like
way the system is.
Problem, right?
That's what?
That's like a root problem. Like
that's the root problem, right? So we can't follow, we have to pick one. We have to pick high school or middle school or elementary school, and attendance zones to follow. And even that, like I would have preferred to pick elementary schools attendance zones, because more people go to their local elementary school than go to their local high school, I think, generally speaking. But the city charter actually specifically mentions high school attendance zones and not the other ones. So we have been following high school attendance zone boundaries because of that reason.
Holy Toledo.
Yeah, there's just layers of it
lot.
Here. This map right here looks like the New York subway map.
Yeah.
New York subway
so
map.
This is like, this is the feeder school pattern, and it's all over the place. So it's not possible to keep people together always in the same board district for all of their schooling all the way up from elementary to middle to high. Even if they go to their local schools, it's actually just not possible, because if you draw the line on one of these lines, you're going to split one of the other levels.
All right, okay. Loraine, we're getting a question. Can BD5, well, I don't know if she's allowed to ask this question, so you can say I'm not allowed to answer this question. Someone wants to know if BD5 can be pushed into BD6 and BD6 go more into BD3. Wait, sorry, now I lost it. There was more. Sorry, people are chatting and I lost it.
I have it. Can BD5 be pushed further into BD6 and BD6
there we go.
pushed more into BD3, so that like BD3, for example, would be south of Ventura Boulevard? Or is that running into, again,
that's
sort of
basically
like
what
density
map 2
problem?
Is, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what map 2 is?
So the BD3 would be south of Ventura Boulevard. Yes, map 2 has BD3 south of Ventura Boulevard. The southern boundary on this is Mulholland.
Can we see the larger
Everyone's
version?
Trying to send us to Nick. I don't know what to say.
Can I see the
sweating?
Can I see the larger version of map 2? Like, is there a way for us to sort of
map 2? Zoom in on map 2?
Not this bit, not the valley bit. Just I want to see what the breakdown is with all the other pieces as well.
Okay. So is this what you're looking for? So this is in the east side, the different options on the east side with District 2 and District 5. So the one on the right is very much like what it is today, right? With the sliver in between the two. And I think, there's definitely a lot of desire on the commission not to do that. And I just, as I was mentioning, these are modular. So like, just because it's called 2 doesn't mean we can't pick option 2 in the valley.
Right, like I like 1A, 1B for this section.
Yes, right. So you can choose 1A in this section and pair it with, 2 in the Valley section. That's perfectly allowed.
So the question is, if Reseda stays in BD3, where will BD4 get diversity? How do we, how is that factored in at all?
Can you say that again? If Reseda stays, so this is going back to the previous.
Looking at map 2, sorry, for BD, I think that there's a heavy amount of BD 3 and 6 here, and in some 4 also actually. But I think so right now, does this map have the current lines on it?
Yes, in black.
Oh, right.
These ones, these are the current lines.
Do you see the faucet?
Yeah.
Do you see the faucet, Jenna?
This
So
is the
Reseda,
faucet right here.
I see the faucet. So Reseda is right now currently in BD3.
Well, actually, Reseda High School is in BD6 because of this faucet.
Okay.
So a part of Reseda is in BD6.
Wow.
And part of it is in BD3.
It seems like it's a good idea. Okay. I mean, I guess the question is like, looking at map 2, do we have any like demographic statistics on map 2 for BD4?
Yes. I have to pull them up though.
Oh, sorry.
Now, how much time do you want me to take here?
No, you're
Yes.
I mean,
let me go look. I should have it. So you're looking for map 2, right?
Well, a map. So if I guess for map 2, what would the demographics look like for BD4? Because basically what it seems like to me is map 2 is it's just putting all the white people together. Am I allowed to say that out loud? Nicole usually tells me.
Yes. Like
So-
we can explicitly talk about, we have to talk about race in this. We absolutely have to talk about it.
I definitely think that race should be talked about, and in fact, legally we don't want to reduce political power of minority voices. We're not, like I said, the
right?
packing and cracking, that applies to minorities too. So we're not allowed to like pack all Latinos into one district or crack any ethnicity really, API, into like multiple different districts and say, okay, dilute that vote so that it's all spread out into a bunch of different districts. Those are things that are not legally allowed to, and at the same time, we're also not allowed to have race be the primary factor that we use to draw any lines. So
are you all, I'm very curious, when you all sit down as a commission, like, are you all having these explicit discussions about race?
Like I said, we're not allowed to use race as the primary factor. So we're mostly looking at communities of interest and keeping what we call communities of interest together. So if there are communities that are held together by anything in particular, and that can be language, it can be culture, it can be schools, it can be socioeconomic status, all those kinds of things are the kinds of things that are criteria that are valid criteria for considering a community of interest and keeping a community of interest together.
Well, I know that was part of the issue with, I think you're pulling up the maps again, but that was part of the issue, right? That there's like a chunk of like the District 1 community that's actually in District 2, right? Currently. So I think that they've been advocating to be reconnected.
Yeah, we've had a lot of public comment about all kinds of different communities and people coming out and saying, please keep this, this is my community and I want to keep this community together. So
Nicole, we're distracting Loraine and she's trying to pull up maps.
I know.
Well, I'm trying to pull up the stats for map 2. Okay, here we go. I do.
Yes.
Here we are.
Give us all of the data. Give me all of those demographics. I'm telling you.
Forgetting if I'm sharing my screen or not.
If Manny's not watching, it's very sad because I feel like he'd be.
Oh my God.
Manny.
So,
Yes.
so draft map 2, these are, you were looking for District 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the white population you were asking about in
61%.
61% white. Now, this is not the school population, I should point out, right? Which is LAUSD school population is very different than like the population of people who live in an area.
That's
So
right.
yeah, 61% in District 4 in draft map 2.
What is it? What was it in draft map 1?
1A and 1B are 59% white. So maybe I
Dude,
vote.
that's not that much of a difference.
Okay.
But
it's still really insanely white.
Well, that's the census data. That's the, I mean, if we really wanted to get sort of like in the weeds about the demographics, right? Like Loraine is just saying.
Wait, Loraine, don't kill me, but I know that I'm getting into the weeds, but I feel like I'm selfishly getting into the weeds.
It's okay.
Can we look at the 2 and 5 maps?
Yes.
Just because
are you seeing Lucia's question? I want to see. I want to see that District 2.
I'm being sort of selfish. I'm not like having a private conversation here. So
is this what you're asking for? This one?
Yes. Yes, that's what we are asking for.
Yeah.
Okay. See, this is fascinating. Lucia, what are your thoughts on this? Big
change. Lucia, what do you see here, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to hear from Lucia, definitely. I mean, for me, speaking as somebody who taught in South Central before the map change 10 years ago, and also speaking as somebody who teaches now in like the Silver Lake, Los Feliz area, this is really interesting too.
Do we see on here? I don't see the black lines.
I did not put the old map on this one. I'm sorry. We just adopted these drafts like yesterday. So
oh my God. No, it's all good.
This is amazing.
But it's very similar to map 2. It's not exactly the same.
Okay.
It's similar to map 2.
So it's one unlike the 3-4 difference, the 3 and 4 the 3 and 6 where A and B are very similar. This is the opposite, where A and B are actually very different and 2 is similar.
Yes.
But it's
no, right? For me, I want to know what Lucia says, but for me, just looking at this, it's like 1B looks, and if I think about sort of like the communities, like 1B looks pretty tasty to me as somebody who's taught in a couple of these communities. But again, I would love to hear from folks who send their students and or work in these communities.
So this, what I think is interesting is it looks like a lot of the District 5 folks would actually now be in District 2. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Folks in the north of District 5, that north barbell. I mean, if you're gonna fix this like dumbbell situation where we have a big chunk in the north and a big chunk in the south, then either the north or the south is gonna have to move. And
do either of these have any impact on Jackie? Because I think, doesn't Jackie live in Silver Lake?
So I'm pretty sure that all the draft maps do not district anybody out of their district in terms of where they live, mostly because I think people are aware that the city council would just change it back, if we,
All right, well, this is interesting. Lucia, did we lose you?
I know, I'm super interested to hear what her thinking is on this.
All right, well, while we're waiting on Lucia, can we look at 1 and 7?
Yeah.
Just to have a,
So I didn't
yeah.
put them side by side. I put them on top of each other just because they're so similar that you can't even see the difference when you put them side by side. So basically
Oh,
the
okay.
difference, between the two options here is whether you draw the bottom line, you know, the boundary is at El Segundo or at Rosencrantz. So in maps 1A and 1B, the bottom boundary is in El Segundo. And in map 2, the bottom boundary is in Rosencrantz. And right now it's somewhere in between. I'm not sure exactly what that street is, but it's basically, do you keep Gardena all together or do you split it up? Right now it's split up. And then we have an option where you continue to split it. And we have an option where you keep it all in one district.
and what is does it seem like the community is leaning in one direction?
Well, I think folks would like to keep the city together.
It sort of seems like that makes the most sense, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Lucia's back. Lucia's back.
Can we go back to that, to, was it 2.5? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Lucia, please look at this. We need your thinking on it.
I will say that one of the things, so when I was getting sort of prepped for this conversation, Loraine, I went back and looked at some of the minutes. And one of the things that I noticed was there was a huge amount, and again, like, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, full disclosure, I live in BD3, so does Nicole. So obviously that's where my main frame of reference is, but I guess currently El Sereno is not in District 2, but it wants to be. So there seemed to be like a lot of conversation about that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, there were a whole set of comments that were all very similar, you know, mostly folks, you know, some community organizations that, you know, I think are advocating for, you know, they were advocating for Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, El Sereno, East LA to be arguing that that's a community of interest that should be kept together.
Okay. And I do really support that idea of community of interest, right? Like I think, but how do you, it reminds me of, I don't know. I mean, how do we keep communities of interest together without having it look like things are being classified by race, right? Because I think a lot of times that ends up being what happens, right? So how does that get determined?
So as I was saying before, a community of interest can be determined by things like schools, language, culture, socioeconomic patterns. You know, if there's an industry or an employer that employs a lot of folks, you know, in one area, transportation systems, media that, you know, people are served by the same media. There's a lot of different things that are appropriate criteria to define a community of interest.
And then in what, somebody had asked this question, which I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. First of all, when does this all take place? Like, what's the timing?
Yeah, so just going back to my schedule.
Yep. Oh, good.
So next week we have the public input hearings. On October 13th, we're going to have draft maps presented by community organizations. And I do expect that there will be community organizations that submit draft maps, and they are allowed to give presentations about their draft maps. So we're going to hear those presentations on the 13th. And then the final recommendation from the commission is going to come out on October 20th. We don't have much time for this. And then from there, it goes to city council, and then there's a whole new process where they will have public input and public comment, but that's up to them. And that's the city charter says they have to be completely done with everything and all the drawing and all the, they have to, geography people have to go out and like write verbal descriptions of every district, like it turns here and you know, like verbal descriptions of all these lines. All that kind of stuff has to be completely done by the end of the year.
So come January, we will have new maps, right?
Yes, we will. LA City Council will have adopted a new map by January.
And it's just going to be like it is what it is. So come January, Nicole could have her dream of being in Nick's district.
But come January, we'll be stuck with whatever we're stuck with for 10 years.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy. It is what it is. Holy Toledo. All right. Well,
and I will say, just to, you know, part of the reason we're in this situation is the Trump administration, well, also the pandemic, but several things really delayed the census data. And so, you know, that's why all the redistricting commissions, all the candidates who are running for office right now for anything are running in a district where they don't know what their district is going to be, right? I can't imagine being a candidate for anything right now. You know, the census data was very delayed as a result of some things, you know, that were messed up by the Trump administration and some things that were just unavoidable because of the pandemic. But usually we have the data much earlier in the year, and would have been done with this earlier, or at least could have stretched out the like public input time and not smushed it all into 1 week.
Manny has a map and he's sending it to me, but I want him to post it in the comments. I'm calling you out publicly, Manuel.
So Ingrid wants to know, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, Loraine, but when the city council is doing their piece on this map, is there going to be space and time for the public to give input when it's at that stage?
Yes. Okay. Yes, there will.
Thank you.
And will you guide us if we need to mess shit up?
What?
Will you guide us if we need, like, if we need to? Like, my concern is that I feel like we have these people that have been doing all of this hard work, and I would hate for the city council to come in and be like, no, I make this Grey Poupon. Like, I want to make sure that doesn't happen, unless I don't like the maps, which is a different story. So just kidding.
Right.
I just want to be able to, I feel like if we're gonna, I don't know, this is like my thing. It goes back to like my issues with people ignoring vaccine recommendations. Like, if you're going to ask people to do something, right, and especially people that are doing the work and they're trained and they're skilled, whatever, let them do it. I digressed again.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, I think like
I just bring everything back to the vaccine. It's fine. It's like my superpower.
We love you for that, Jenna. We do. Okay. So
Nicole, Manny wants to make sure you're not going to censor him if he posts.
Seriously, did he just ask that?
Yeah.
Manny, I don't even know what to say. I love you, Manny. I love you and I miss you. I've had you at my house, Manny. Come on.
Manny, we want to see your map.
We're the people. Okay, wait. So I want to make sure I have a few things down here. So we've got essentially the month of October is where it's all happening.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, most everything's happening next week in terms of public input.
Okay. And in terms of where, are you going to be able to send us sort of like, here's the flyer with all the public input opportunities. Like, here are the links to, you know, the October 4th, 6th, 9th meetings.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I would follow Redistrict LAUSD on social media, or you can go to our website, Redistricting. Let's see, let me pull it up just so I don't get it wrong. But, you know, all of that will be on our website. Redistricting2021.lacity.org.
Okay. Yes, we want this. I want this for PST. I want us to have it there. So better than a screenshot, if we could get this so that we could post that would be outstanding. And then
I'll put it in the chat, although I don't think the Facebook people can see it, but
Yeah, we can move it from one thing to another.
Okay.
Jenna's on it.
Okay.
I have to warn you all, I'm getting a little loopy at this time of night.
Yeah.
I know. Well, it's 8:30.
It's 8:30.
Mark. We respect people's times. All right. Oh my God. Manny is driving me insane. Okay. Oh wait, that I can handle. Rachel, will you put the redistricting thing in the website? Ah! Holy Toledo. Manny is making me crazy.
Yes.
Fine, Manny. I'm putting your frickin' map in.
Because we love you, Manny. Loraine,
Yeah.
you have been so wonderful to carve out this time and space for us tonight. This is the second working parent we've had on this week who is like a public servant in the best sense, right? And coincidentally, both of you are scientists, so it's lovely.
Yeah.
I know today was like Women in Science Week on PST. So
oh my God, I love that about us.
I know. So I just want to, and I also want to express gratitude for the work you're doing with this redistricting commission. I know that you have so much else going on in your life. And thank you so much for making the time to make it make sense for everybody and to make it fair for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. You're welcome. I really appreciate your having me on, and I really hope that folks will come out and make public comment and tell us about what you want, because I would like to hear your voices represented, and I would like the whole commission to hear what you all have to say.
Has there been much public comment already, or are these the first sessions that you all are opening up to people?
No, these are not the first sessions. We actually had a whole round of public input before the draft maps were released. The early meetings were pretty sparsely attended, but later on it did pick up, and we have had quite a few folks weigh in at this point. We've had 2 neighborhood councils that took positions also. So if you want your neighborhood council to take a position, they can submit what they call a community impact statement, and they can come and present for 5 minutes, which is exciting. About what the neighborhood council wants, things like that. If you have organizations like Parents Supporting Teachers could submit a draft map. And if you are a community organization, and you could come and present on your draft map on the October 13th, because we're having community orgs come and present on their draft maps.
Oh my God, Manny.
Manny.
The maps are calling to you, Manny. Oh, can unions give input as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for asking that, Ingrid. I appreciate that. Yes. Okay, awesome. All right. I'm gonna
thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys are all amazing.
Thanks,
oh my
community.
God, I was able
Thanks,
to
Loraine.
post Manny. This is Manny's map. I just posted it, for the love of Pete. Manny.
Little victories. Thank you, Manny. We love you. Bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye, everybody. Loraine, thank you for everything.
Thank you, Loraine.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. Bye.